Hi everybody, it's Mr. Bowl here with our first Year 6 lesson on the Mayan Civilization. This is lesson 1, and in this lesson we're going to look at why do we study the Mayan Civilization at school. By the end of this lesson you'll be able to answer this question, and you'll be able to say what are the most important reasons why we study the Mayan Civilization. But first of all we're going to find out a bit more about it. So question 1, where did they live? Well, actually, it's where do they live, because Mayan people still live in this area, thousands of people who are descended directly from the civilization that we study. And the country that you will have heard of that's nearby is Mexico. So they lived in this area, in the Mayan, in the lowlands, and also in the mountains. And these areas especially are rainforest, and they always have been. So they were rainforest back when the Mayans lived there. And that affects how they lived, as I'm sure you realise. This is where it is in the world, so we know our continents, so it's just in North America, but only just because this is South America. So that's where they lived. When did they live? Now they actually started a very long time ago, in around about 1800 BC. So BC we know about, don't we, before Christ. And they started here, and they carried on all the way through this period. And we only really finished the Mayan civilization period when the Spanish arrived in 1519 and conquered the people who lived there. But the most important section of their civilization that we study is in this area here, just before and after about 1000 AD. So it's roughly the same time as the Vikings and Anglo-Saxons that we studied in year 4. Here's some background. There are lots of Mayan ruins that have been discovered, ruined buildings, and a lot of them are in the rainforests in the country that's now called Guatemala. From the air you can only see the top of the various temples and palaces through the canopy of trees. There are hundreds of stone carvings. They're very weather beaten because they've been there for a long time. There are huge plazas, big squares covered in moss, and reservoirs, which is a container for water engulfed by the jungle. The only creatures that live there now are wild animals and birds. And until recently, about 100 years ago, people didn't realise that any of the buildings were there. This is an example of some of the buildings. This is what they discovered. And then when they tidied the whole thing up, this is what it looks like. And as I say, these were only started to be discovered about 100 years ago. And recently there's been lots more buildings discovered using new technology. But people have had to do a lot of research to work out what they are. Based on the research that archaeologists have done, and historians, this is what they think the Mayan city of El Mirador looked like. So as you can see, it's absolutely fantastic. Lots of people living here, very advanced technology. And it's interesting to compare this with the type of life that was going on in Britain at the time. This is the sort of place that you might have lived in if you lived in Britain at the same time that this city was built. This is a Saxon hut. So it's interesting to think that back in those days, the Mayan people were probably more advanced than people were in Britain who lived at the same time. Now, what's going to happen next is I'm going to show you various pictures that give you ideas about what the Mayans did. And this will be a bit like being in one of the lessons at school. For these series of pictures, there are 11 pictures. I'm not going to say anything the first time round, and you're going to make some notes. So you might want to pause this in a minute when I've finished and get a piece of paper. You're going to make some notes for every picture. You're going to write down what you think it is and what does it tell us about what the Mayans achieved. Okay, so it's what is it, what do you think it is, and what does it tell us about what the Mayans achieved. So if it's going too fast on this video, you can just pause it so you give yourself a chance to write the notes, and then we'll come back and talk about them in a few minutes. Here's the first picture. Right, that's the last one. So now, hopefully on your piece of paper, you've got 11 different notes saying what it is, what each picture is, do you think? And what does it tell you about what the Mayans could do, what they could achieve? Now we're going to go over them together. If it went too fast, just go back and pause on whichever one you want. Okay, this is the first one. So what do you think these are? Well, you probably worked this out. They're a type of book, and they put them together in a different way to the way we make our books. You can fold them up like this. And these, they call their books a codex. They had a system for writing. They obviously did lovely artwork and pictures in there. So they had beautiful books. That's one of the things they achieved. This is their system of counting. Were you able to predict what the 7, 8, and 9 would look like? So this system of counting is very advanced, and it's probably better than the system that we were using in Britain at that time, because as you can see, they have a placeholder. And as you know, the placeholder wasn't introduced to Britain until the 11 and 1200s. So they were already counting in a way that was probably more advanced than the way we were able to do it at that time. Here's a calendar. And you might have seen this before because this is a very famous Aztec picture. But the Aztecs actually got the idea from the Mayans. And if you go online, you can look this up. There's a little link here, and you can find out more about this calendar. And from this building, the Caracol Observatory, they could look at the stars. So this means they must have had astronomy. So as well as being able to write books and having a system of counting that was very advanced, they were observing the stars and doing astronomy. And they had a calendar that could help them work out the times of year for planting and harvesting the crops, etc. So every one of these shapes represents a sound. So it's like a phonic alphabet. So when you learned phonics before in the infants, this would be their version of phonics. So all of these have a sound. So they had a system of writing. Now, which system of writing does this remind you of? I think you've probably been calling out hieroglyphics. So it's like a bit like the ancient Egyptian system of writing. In this one, you will have seen that they discovered chocolate. So that, I'm sure you'll agree, is a great invention. And these underneath, they have maize. Maize is a type of corn, and they have maize cakes, and these are covered in chocolate. So maybe a little bit like a flapjack, which has a chocolate on the top. Here's a very sophisticated game that they invented, which we call the Mayan ball game. So he's got some padding around his waist because he has to hit the ball with his hip, and it's a competition. Yeah, it was done on a very big scale, as you will have noticed here. Here's quite a big place that they've built specially for playing this game, and there's the hoop, and you have to get the ball through there. This is an amazing temple, and here, although it's not very clear in this picture, but this has the image of a snake slithering down the side of a temple, which is built into the structure. This temple is called Kukulkan, and this temple is very clever. So have you got any ideas why the total number of steps would be 365? I think you will have worked out that there are 365 days in the year. And so the Mayans had a system which they used. This temple was part of ceremonies. We don't exactly know what they did, but ceremonies that involved how the year gradually turns and you get winter and spring, etc. This is a sculpture of the animal, a jaguar, which I'm sure you already know about. Here are two of the Mayan gods. This is the maize god, which helps the corn to grow, and this one is the rain god, obviously without rain. your crops wouldn't grow. Right, so you've probably got a good list now of some of the main achievements of the Mayans during their civilization. So your list might look something like this. You've got a system of writing, like the hieroglyphics. They knew about the stars and had an observatory. They built great cities. They discovered chocolate. They had a system of numbers. They had fantastic craftsmen and women and sculptors. They played quite a sophisticated ball game, and they worshipped gods. You might have some other things on your list as well. So what we're going to do is, you're going to print off from the school's website this list here, okay, and cut them up. And then you're going to make them into a diamond 9, which we've done before. So whichever reasons, these are all reasons why we study the Maya. So whichever ones you think are most important, when you've cut these up, you're going to put the important ones at the top, and then the ones you think are in the middle at the bottom, and then the least important ones right down the bottom. So although I like chocolate, I don't think it's their most important achievement during their civilization, so I'll probably put this one at the bottom. But you don't have to agree with me. You can put them all wherever you want. If your printer's not working or anything, don't worry about it. Just look at these they're on the school system on the website. Just look at these and decide. You can just put the numbers in order, which ones are the most important. And there's 2 pages like this on the website. There's another set. So that's your first task. So pause the video, go and do that, and then you can get them in order. And later on, when you send me your work, you can just send me a photograph of your diamond 9, but you have to be prepared to say why you've chosen them in that order. So why are they important, the ones you put at the top? Right, when you've done that, we're going to prepare to watch a short video about the Mayan civilization. Okay, and in this task, you're going to get ready for watching it by writing a list of the things you think a 5-minute introduction video about the Mayans should mention. Okay, so you're going to write your list of things in here. You might mention the hieroglyphics. You might mention that they could do astronomy, that they had their own number system, all the things we've talked about so far. Then if you think they're really important to mention, you'll give it 3 ticks. Middling is 2 ticks, and not so important, 1 tick. Then after that, you're going to watch the video, which is on a website called Brain Pop. It takes about 5 minutes. And as the video is playing, you're going to tick whether they've made it, they think it's really important, which is 3 ticks, or middling, 2 ticks, or not very important, 1. And then compare your list with theirs and see if you agree with the way they made the video, or do you think it could have been better? So what could be better about the video? You do this preparation list first, then you watch it. Here's an example. So if you thought that this should definitely be in the video, they discovered chocolate, then you would write that in here. And if you thought it was, it's not the most important thing, like I do, you'd give it 1 tick. But remember, it's your choice. So if you think it's definitely the most important thing they did, then you give it 3 ticks. Here's the link for the video, which is also on the school's website. When you've watched it, you're going to be able to fill in this column while you're watching it. You might want to watch it more than once. And then you're going to send me a photograph of your work. And if you disagree with the way they did the video, you could just write about that on your piece of paper. You could write, I think they should have included more about the whatever you think, and then tell me why. Okay? Well done, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.